Welcome to the Missing Ingredient Podcast with CJ Bruce, where food and beverage founders, operators, and experts share the real strategies behind building successful brands. Let's jump into today's show.
Hey, I'm CJ Bruce, and welcome to the show. This is the podcast for founders and leaders of high-impact food and beverage brands who are serious about scaling. Each episode, I sit down with the people who power the food and beverage industry, brand operators, agencies, vendors, creators, and retailers, to uncomplicate the strategies that take brands from early traction to serious scale. This episode is sponsored by The Missing Ingredient, a food and beverage marketing agency with over a decade in the industry. We take a different approach, starting with your business goals, looking at the full picture, and building a marketing strategy that actually ties back to growth. From content and performance marketing to influencer partnerships and AI-powered workflows, we're an extension of your team, not just another vendor. Learn more at themissingingredient.com. Now, for today's guest. Mitchel Dumlao is the founder of Creative Haven, a video production and content strategy agency that helps brands grow through high-performing, story-driven content. With over 20 years of experience in film, digital marketing, and social media, he's worked with global brands like HBO, Sony, Spotify, and Colgate to create content that drives real business results. Today, he specializes in helping food and beverage and CPG companies scale their brands through strategic video that converts attention into revenue. Welcome to the show, Mitchel.
Thanks for having me, CJ. Appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, so great to have you here. So we're going to jump way into the past, and we're going to go to your DJ roots. So this is,
wow.
And again,
Love
correct any of the research as I pull it in, but I read at 15, you borrowed money from your mom to start a DJ for DJ equipment to start a mobile DJ business. And just, and you still produce music, if I understand that correctly.
I do. I love that you dug into that. Yeah, that's like the beginning of my entrepreneurial background and journey. I was always a big fan of music when I was young, and also hip hop culture. And I saw a DJ at a dance, just a high school dance party, and I thought it was a cool thing that he was doing. Everybody was having fun, and he was playing music that I loved, and so I started learning with VHS tapes, kind of dating myself here. And this is in California, so it was a lot of house parties. And I told my mom that, I wanted to borrow some money so I can start a DJ business. And then she thought she was never going to get that money back. But I actually took that money, bought some Technic 1200s, some big, pretty nice turntables, some records, and my friends and I, we created a DJ crew, and we started DJing high school parties, bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, weddings, and I paid my mom back. It might have been $1,000, maybe $750. It was $1,000 because those turntables were expensive. And I paid her back, and she always tells that story because it is kind of the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And it really helped me with sales. Those were the days where I was so passionate about what I was doing. It was easier for me to sell what I was doing. And so learned a lot about sales, a lot about marketing, a lot about customer service, and also creating a great product.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So moving ahead a little bit into your Hollywood background, which actually we share this in common of being, surviving Hollywood alumni. So and touch on a little in the intro, you had, very traditional Hollywood, traditional media, those lines are getting blurred now. And so you could talk a little bit about that transition from, working in those types of environments into, more digital forward and the CPG brands.
Yeah, so in high school, I loved filmmaking, I loved movies. My mom and dad used to take my brothers and I to the local VHS store, and we used to get VHS tapes and watch movies as a family. And I think that really stuck with me. And filmmaking to me is a great way to bring people together. And so I decided to major in film studies at UC Santa Barbara. And when I was there, we learned a lot about theory, but not really the production side or the business side of Hollywood. So when I graduated, I didn't know what to do in Hollywood. I thought you just took your reel and you just shipped it around and chopped it around and pitched yourself and you got a directing gig, and that was that. But I quickly found out that wasn't the way to do it. So I ended up interning at the Weinstein Company, and then Miramax, And then I started working for an executive who started his own company. He had a first look deal at Focus Pictures. And I was an assistant, producer's assistant. And this is when I learned a lot about the Hollywood system and the business of Hollywood, developing scripts, finding writers and directors, managing clients, trying to find out what was the trending scripts out there, what were the studios buying. And so I turned into sales. Once again, I just keep going into sales. So my whole my as an assistant, I think a lot of people out there know about this. I just try to help my boss keep his schedule intact, get a lot of meetings, find new projects so he could pitch it to the studio. After that, I went to another job, became another assistant, then I got promoted to become a literary manager and an creative executive. And I managed 40 clients in animation, feature films, TV, and comic books. So I was taking a lot of the ideas that my clients had, developing them, packaging them at agencies, pitching them to studios or TV shows, trying to get my clients staffed on shows, showrunners selling shows, and I was all over the place. It was really a interesting experience. I learned a lot about the art of art of schmoozing, going around Hollywood, having drinks at night. I mean, people drinking whiskey in the middle of the day and having to come back to work, just the Hollywood way. And it was a fun time. I was traveling around the world, went to Cannes, I went to Sundance, I went to all these different film festivals to find clients, to find writers and directors to work with and projects. But it got a little too stressful for me and it was very toxic. It wasn't really the way I wanted to live the Hollywood dream and the filmmaking dream. And so on this side, I actually started a YouTube channel with my friends, and it was a channel that documented breakdancing. Again, big hip hop fan. That's just my childhood. And then when I created this channel with my friends, we grew it to a point where we were a big channel, and I was making more money from that channel and also with some video production gigs than my full-time job. And I realized I think I would rather just quit and pursue my own business. And that's when I started working with a lot of brands to promote on my channel, and then that turned into working with brands to help them promote themselves on YouTube. This is back in the day where YouTube wasn't as big as it was now. People really were skeptical about social media, about marketing on YouTube, and if it was even a pathway for a lot of brands to even post content that would get any conversions. It was really just the Wild West. And so my job was to show people, that you can post YouTube videos, different types of YouTube videos, and then turn it to Instagram and then TikTok. And now here we are where I work with food and beverage companies, really help them grow their companies and their brands through social media content, branded content, digital content, and video.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we have. I didn't realize how many parallels we have in those early days because I went.
Oh, really?
I was in visual effects on the production side, and then went into YouTube marketing as well. We were doing like YouTube SEO and viral video
Really?
marketing in the late 2000s, basically 2007, 8, 9.
Were you a VFX artist?
I was a VFX assistant, so I worked with the artists, and then I worked with the VFX supervisor, and so I basically did all the rough comps. So it was like the first stuff, or like, we have an idea, like, you kind of cobble this together and see if it would work, and then I was like, if it worked ish in that environment, then we go on to the proper artist to do
that would be before After Effects.
Yeah,
right?
It was the beginning of After Effects. Yeah, it was beginning After Effects, and like the artist on the product was writing his own plugins and things, and it was early days, but it was fun. But then same thing, got burned out, needed more work-life balance, needed to work on projects that I was more passionate about. That's cool. So moving into today, so you're obviously doing, like you said, a lot of content, creative content, and production. And I think one of the interesting things that that you do is remote production. We worked on projects together, I should say. Like we work on the Sumo Citrus recipe content, which is awesome. Did an awesome job there. And so I'm curious how do you approach remote production, with clients and building trust there? And, obviously being on set and being able to see what's happening is very different than, when you're working remotely. So how do you approach that?
So yeah, my background, I know that I went to film school. Then when I started working in Hollywood, I wasn't really a production person. I didn't know how to use a camera. I didn't know how to direct on set. I just didn't know production. So when I quit and had my production company and my YouTube channel, that's when I had to learn production, and I had to buy a camera, buy lenses, buy lights, buy microphones, and then really just create videos for brands by myself, and then with crews. And why that's very important is that I know the technical language of being in a production team and being on set, and also from soup to nuts, going from pre-production, even selling a video package and creating a pitch deck, and then creating a proposal, and then a scope of work contract, and then going into pre-production, doing a location scout and storyboarding, and then production design, and then going into scripting, and then going into production, and then everything that happens on production, from directing and sound mix, sound recording, lighting, and the producing side of that. And then there's post-production, editing and sound mixing and color correction. So knowing that whole pipeline allows me to find the right contractors and talent to staff on projects. And so when I work with clients remotely, and I have to shoot something in New York, I have the experience and the taste and kind of the eye to hire the right talent, and also talk with them and make sure that they're the type of person that I would want to work to and I can trust. So one thing I've learned, I think a lot of producers know this, is that you can have the most talented person in the world, but they could be a complete asshole. They could also be flaky, and they can be unreliable. And sometimes you can work with someone who is complete opposite. They not necessarily have, a Cannes Award winning ad, or I had a film in Sundance that won awards, but they have the technical expertise. They have a solid reel, and they are just very present on phone calls. They're very proactive, and they know how to work with clients. And that's what's important to me. So that's how I like to work with my remote teams, is that I have to build trust with the contractors, with the videographers, the editors, and everyone I work with remotely. I have to build that trust first. I know it can be hit or miss. I've had very disastrous situations. I've also had very fruitful relationships that have come out of productions, remote productions, and I will always work with those people. And so when I do work with clients remotely, it always comes down to the creative brief, and always the creative vision, the deliverables, the timeline, the deadlines, the goals, and then anything that comes in between with scheduling. And once that's really figured out from my end, I'm like a mercenary. I'm just going to execute. And when I execute, I want to have the best team around me, because your product, especially with video, is really dependent on a team. I've done things all by myself, and it's not great for my mental health, and it's also sloppy. I mean, you need a third person and fourth person, fifth person to look at the final product and tell you to remove something or edit something. And also you need different types of talent and creative input, so that the final deliverable has multiple creative genius behind it. And I think that's what would make a video from Creative Haven so special, is because I really do work with a lot of really talented creative people who I trust when we come in together, that their input and their opinions and their tastes will all mesh together to create a really great product. That's how I like to work remotely. Really, is just finding the right team.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's, like you said, can't do it alone, and you get the right people, in the group, and get good feedback, and all that leads to a better end product. I think that's great insight. So moving into, some specifics on content. So when, a brand, oftentimes when we face this, brands come to us and they've got, our product has these 10 benefits, or there's all these great things about it. And so when you're thinking about, obviously you can't communicate all of that in, one video, let alone even a series of videos. So how do you help brands like prioritize, what are the right things to communicate? And how does that then come to life in video content?
Yeah, so I do a lot of research online, and a lot of it is competitor research and trending research. So it's finding what the platforms they want to upload to. What are they posting? Is it YouTube? Is it TikTok? Is it Instagram? And then figuring out what in their vertical, what is trending at that moment. Is it UGC content? Is it recipe videos? Or is it testimonials and case studies? And when I start looking at these videos, then I start seeing a lot of the trending topics. I do a lot of research online, and yes, I do use AI, which we'll talk about later. But it's just more of a thinking buddy. And so when we get to that point, I really just look at the different types of features and benefits that the brand has, and then also their target audience, then their ICP. What does their ICP truly relate to, engage with online? Because you could have multiple features and benefits, but sometimes only one really works with a certain ICP. And it's finding out what that hook is, what those pain points are, what those solutions are. It really helps the content convert, because you can have a beautiful, flashy video. And I think we all know this nowadays, because with Super Bowl ads, I think it's more about just the prestige of being in a Super Bowl ad than conversions. You can get a better conversion with a UGC video, or with a behind the scenes look into how the product is made, or a cell phone video at an event and somebody's giving a live testimonial. It's really all about what the target audience and the ICP really want and what they really respond to. And that takes a lot of research, and also looking at past performance. So if the brand is already established, we can work with our marketing team to figure out what has been successful in the past with your brand. And that can actually be on all different channels, on newsletters. It could be on online, on certain landing pages. Well, what have you found on certain language has been very helpful? What ad copy have you used before has been high converting for you? And how can we translate that into video? And video is very interesting nowadays because it's just ubiquitous with a lot of people's social media consumption. So you really have to work on that hook. And the hook is so important nowadays that the first 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds have to be so engaging. And that engaging hook can be either a visual hook or a verbal hook, an audio hook. And the audio hook, I like watching YouTube ads. I don't actually turn off the ad blocker because it's just great research for me. And I've seen some great ones out there, and they hook me. I've actually had a lot of Instagram ads shown to me for months, and then finally hooked me. And I realized why. And it's because I just, as an ICP for them, that very moment, I saw an ad that really I responded to. And that's the same way that you have to think about it, is that how does your ICP scroll? What's their doom scroll? Watch list. What are they watching? What are they looking at? And that's kind of very important when you think about content and creating content.
Love it. Yeah. So the people who don't know, ICP is ideal customer profile. So really like all the details about, who is this person who you want to buy your product. There's a few threads that you just brought in that I want to pick up on. I think because we ended on it, let's go straight into hooks. So I want to double click on that a little bit. Like, as you're thinking about hooks, are there patterns that you see that work, or is it really you're coming up with different hooks every time? And maybe even dig a little bit into that, like, audio versus, video hooks, or, how do you hook people in those first few seconds?
Yeah, I'll tell you about just some of the ads that hook me. Sometimes it's the very disruptive statement, like, I just fired my agency, and then they say, what? Oh, the reason why is that? Oh yeah, because I do everything now with this AI product. Or you don't have to pay us anything. We're going to guarantee you're going to get $1 million in sales right now when you watch this video. Those are, I can say sometimes that those are like clickbaitish, but if those products and those brands can really stand by that content or that statement, then I feel like it's very, it's just, I won't say over exaggerated. It's just a much more prettied up a statement on what they can provide. And I honestly feel that hooks, there's different types of hooks. There's a question hook of like, how do you feel about, are you still working out every single day, hoping to lose weight? This new product was great because it helped me lose weight in 2 days. Stuff like that. I think like the question hook is very important because it's an open loop. Disrupting statements like you don't need to eat fruit to lose weight. You could eat. I ate pizza 30 days and I still gained 20 pounds of muscle, and it's because I took this supplement with it. So like just disrupting statements, questions, and then when it comes to the visual, a lot of the visual stuff that I've seen lately, it could just be like dumb things of things on fire or a really cool gadget. Like if you see a product on TikTok that looks like it has string, it's a piece of string coming out the wrist, like you're Spider-Man, and you're like, wow, that looks pretty cool. And sometimes um, uh, I always think just displaying the product in full form is a great way to hook people. I think I've also seen a lot of ASMR hooks on TikTok that get me, to be honest, a little power washing videos, uh, cleaning products. This is what I've seen. I'm going to give you my own reactions, but
Yeah.
these are also like viral products are getting huge because I think they know their ICP. They know what will hook them. And it's also a lot of um, trial and error. This is not just one ad for one campaign. They're doing uh, 10, 20, 30 hooks sometimes. And I think now because of using Figma or even some AI products or even with like CapCut, Opus, you're able to create hooks instantly and like 20, 30 hooks, throw it out there in a campaign. And I also I've done this before where you just put black text on a white background, and then these can be several hooks, just text hooks, and you can just
Hmm.
test that on Meta, and then see what will actually get the most clicks, most conversions. And you realize, okay, I just text on white on white. Let me test that out with a visual. Let me test that out
Hmm.
with actual full design graphics. Let me try this with audio. And so, again, I think that hooks depend on your ICP, and I think there's a lot of trial and error. And so you have to try a lot, 30 days or 15 days, however you want to, how much budget you want to put behind it, and then use that data to actually influence what you want to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of great nuggets in there. Another question in this is balancing is something we run into, right? A brand wants to have like their logo or their product like early on in the video because everybody skips the beginning of the video. So how do you maybe it just comes out in the data like you're saying, but how do you educate brands about where and when like their branding and brand actually or products are actually showing up in the video?
Yeah, I remember there was a time when the intro card, like a lot of brands wanted to have their title card with their branded logo, their logo, and their the name of the video, what people are going to see, and then you start seeing the retention kind of fall off. Everybody stops watching when there's a lot of text on screen in the very beginning, with no video or no face or nothing going on, and so it just comes back to data. I think it's just showing brands what the trends are, what the data is out there about how people consume videos nowadays. And with branding and logo usage, it all comes down to subtleness, I think. How can we subtly put in the logo so it's not in your face all the time? I know that brand awareness and brand recognition and recall is very important. You want someone to look at a logo and then remember that logo. So they go to a store, they see it on the shelf, they buy that. There's a lot of ways to put the product into the video that doesn't necessarily have a graphic logo. If it's again, UGC video or just a day in the life video, it's somebody taking it out of a fridge in Costco, using a hand, picking it out of the shelf and then bringing it home, unboxing. We don't need a graphic watermark on the video all the time. You can just see the product in action. I think that's more important. How can we see the product in action, and how is that logo somehow integrated in that flow? And then, of course, there's the end card, CTA, and maybe just putting it there. And I know this because I work with a production company where we're doing Amazon Ring commercials, And there was always we need to have the product always in there, but it wasn't like the logo was all over the place. It's just the product. How can we just promote the product and then the ring logo can be at the end? Because I think that again, people just want to see the product in action. The people want to see the product, somebody interacting with the product and to see that it's real. I think nowadays, being genuine with your ads is very important. And I think that's why UGC and social media is very important. And influencer marketing is very important nowadays because people don't want to see another Super Bowl ad. They don't think that's genuine enough than somebody from that they've seen next door using the product and just happening to capture it on their cell phone and post it online.
Yeah, that's a great transition into talking about premium versus value, or maybe not even versus, but just like the spectrum of premium and value in content, and thinking about that both in terms of the type of content. So you mentioned UGC a few times, right? We think about like creator content. So UGC, even that is, I think, blurry because sometimes it's true UGC of like customer actually posting a video with the product, or you're getting a smaller creator to make UGC style videos for your product, all the way up to Super Bowl production. So how do you think about that range, and where do those different types of content live or perform the best, and what's the right balance, or how should food brands specifically be thinking about that?
Yeah, I think about that a lot because there's a lot of there's companies that I pitch that don't have as much revenue to invest in a $50,000 video, a $100,000 video. And at the same time, there are some companies out there who do want to invest in the lower budget videos, the UGC content or whatnot, but they want to use high production cameras and actors and models to make it seem as if it's UGC, but it has a high production budget behind it. And it all just depends on, I think, where the brand is in its journey. I think that, in the beginning, as a startup, I don't think you really need a lot of high quality videos. I think a founder video is good. I think some solid high quality product videos, explainer videos possibly, and then how-to videos, how to use it, how to actually engage with the product or interact with the product. And other than that, feeding the beast, to feed the beast, to feed the social media feed, it's usually cell phone content. And this is when you start getting into, I like to do is one-day productions that produce 30 pieces of content. I'm all about the content multiplying strategy of when I talk to a client, it's figuring out what their goals are and then what the platforms they want to upload to, and then what is their capacity of posting. Do they have a social media team? Is it a small team? Are they able to post this much? And so it's the cadence of posting for organic and also paid, and then seeing how much they can afford and how much they need in order for them to feed the beast. I think nowadays there is, as a startup brand or like a new brand, you want that brand awareness. And that brand awareness comes from a lot of content. And the content has to also be meaningful. I think you can post content every single day, but if it doesn't mean anything or it doesn't really attract your ICP or engage with your target audience, then it's just meaningless. But again, this is where you really find the data that's going to actually help you influence and create other content. So if you put up organic content every single day, it can be an influencer that you pay, or your in-house team doing content inside of the office, or yourself filming yourself creating the product, and you start posting it online, come up with a content strategy. 2 or 3 months down the line, you're going to see which one of those videos actually have a lot of engagement, which one has the most views, which one has become viral. That's going to help you create the the better pieces of content, the branded pieces of content, the ad spots, the promos, the the tentpole content you're going to invest in for Black Friday and for Christmas season. Because now you have 3 months of data, 3 months of content you've tested organically, and you've seen which had the most clicks, had the most views, had the most conversions, and it's easier for you to to have those decisions. Now, when it comes to let's say an SME, a company that's making a lot of money, I think that having a series of videos that make your brand look much more prestigious in a way or cleaner is a great way for brand recognition and awareness. Because I think at that point, you've already created so much brand awareness with your own cell phone, UGC, low budget content. You don't want, like it's the whole saying, like you don't want the world to dictate who you are or define who you are. You want to define who you are by the how you put yourself out there. And that's how I feel with a lot of these with brands out there. You don't want all these different influencers and UGC creators and your in-house team, or just people who aren't really connected with a brand, to be dictating how your brand should be presented to the world. So a high quality, high production value piece of content is going to help you define that. I remember just seeing like commercials for brands that I never thought would actually start promoting, like Fiverr or Upwork. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I was on these platforms many moons ago, and I thought these were just, flash in the pan websites that would never ever get traction. And they were just hiring, cheaper freelancers. And then as I start looking at TV, especially on streaming platforms, they're promoting themselves with these high quality videos. And same thing with Verbo. I remember Verbo way back in the day. That was very much before Airbnb. It was a very small website. As it grew in popularity, then it started to create these commercials. And then when you watch these commercials, then you see the aesthetic difference it has with Airbnb, with Booking.com, with different types of other competitors. So that's what my thoughts are about splitting the budget between high quality and, well, I don't say high quality, but higher budget and lower budget content.
I want to pick up on something you talked about in, producing 30 assets in one day. And so how do you approach that? How do you plan for that? How do you get that, volume of content, and what type of content are you producing in a day like that?
Yeah. So again, comes down to the creative brief and also the deliverables. But actually, before that, it's just the goals of the content of the campaign, and then knowing the target audience, and then knowing the ICP, and then figuring out the type of videos we need to create to execute the goals or get the goals that they want. And so once we figure that all out, what I do is that I have a whole content strategy in place. That content strategy lists out the platforms that we're uploading to: YouTube for long form, and then for the ads we have Instagram and Meta, and then we have TikTok content, and then we have YouTube Shorts, and then and then you have e-commerce and Amazon. So then how do we split the day up so that we could create content for each one of those channels? And sometimes you can just re-edit a video, and that footage, same video, re-edited, can be used on different platforms. So the way that I really like to plan days where we have multiple videos that come out that day is that we think about the hero videos first. What are the most important videos that the client wants? Is it a recipe video? Is it a testimonial and case study video? Is it a promo ad? And then from there, I like to then be creative and figure out what can we clip from from these scenes to create new ads or new pieces of content. And then also, what can we shoot on that day that would also complement the brand and also we could use as other pieces of content. And I always feel that because, again, my background as a videographer, I've been on these sets. I shoot these every once in a while. I just know that I can complete a lot of things in a short amount of time. I've been on sets, I think because you're VFX, old Hollywood traditional way. You've got the 30-person teams. You got to reset. It'll take like 2 hours to reset a camera and lights, and you can have like 2 scenes in one day. And so I know how to avoid that by finding a location where we could split up the shooting so that we could have multiple teams shooting at one time. Like I've produced shoots where I've had a photographer in one room, capturing content. Then I have someone with a cell phone outside with a model, capturing social media content with the product. And then indoors, we have a recipe video going on. And that way, we really utilize the time and the location so that we could create as much content as possible. And again, this is a conversation we have with the client beforehand of, are these pieces of content something that's going to work for you? And I don't want to capture this and they say no. And so it's a big pitch of saying, of course, figuring out what they really need. So what do you really want? Okay, you want the recipe video, you want this ad. Great. I think during that time, we're going to be at this location. We can use this room for photography. We can use the outside with an influencer. And then we could have 2 teams going at one time. Then you're going to have 30 pieces of content that you could post online. And at the same time, you can use the photography for e-commerce. You can use it for thumbnails, or you can use it for brochures, whatever works for you. And so again, just being really creative with the location, with the crew, and then talking with the client, of course, at first to see if they have the capacity for it, and if they actually can do something with those 30 pieces of content. Because sometimes I do deliver, actually more than enough times where I've delivered a lot of content, and I go online, they don't use half of it. And I understand, because sometimes there is a cadence they're already used to, and then you don't want to have stale content or old content with different branding, or a different hook or a different pain point they're trying to try to touch on. So yeah, that's my strategy.
Nice. Yeah, it's very cool. I love the efficiency in that, and like having multiple things happening at once and different types and formats and different, we just talked about the kind of like higher or lower production quality, and being able to do that at the same time is a really smart approach. So I want to shift into talking about AI. So AI obviously is affecting all the things for everybody in many different ways. And then, we see these AI creative tools, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, but how is AI affecting your work, and how are you integrating it? And I guess specifically too, like, where are you seeing it, being helpful and working for you, and maybe where is it, overhyped, or you don't think it has a place?
Yeah, so I've been working with generative AI and video for I think 3 years now, since 2023, and it's come a long way. I think that the amount of content out there that is quote unquote AI slop is easy to pick up, though there are some content out there that I've seen that can pass for a real video shoot. And what has been useful for me is a platform called Higgsfield. And I think a lot of people would know about this platform by now, but you can utilize multiple models to create videos, to create images. There's supercomputer where they've used Claude to help you create different types of ads. You can have an AI director. You can have a clone of yourself. You can clone other people. So it's a great platform to really practice and create content. Although I know from nowadays, and doing a lot of research and hearing from the news, that people are getting turned off by AI slop and AI videos. That it's a kind of a careful balance. I think that AI can be great for creating, scenes that you haven't been able to capture, or creating very fantastical visual effects scenes that you don't have the budget for. But there is a big, huge push on UGC content created by Higgsfield. And the reason why is that you can just upload someone's brand deck, their URL, and it'll automatically create a CPG video. It can pass for some people, but you can just tell there's a lot of artifacts, and it just doesn't make sense, some of the videos that come out of it. Although in the hands of the right person, like I've done a few of my own, you can create some very meaningful ads, and you can create actually some believable content. And so I personally have been using AI with Claude Code and creating systems on my back end to optimize my business. Everything from proposal creation using Claude Code skills like front end skill and impeccable. I'm doing a whole video series on this on my YouTube channel. And so
Cool.
if everybody wants to take a look, it's youtube.com/Mitchel Dumlao. And I go through all the different tools that I've been using that's been very helpful for my agency, my company, and also the tools for any company who wants to create content or market their products without a huge budget, but using AI, Claude Code, and Higgsfield to create the content for them in an efficient and an effective way. And I think that when it comes to the content itself, AI generated content is fun to look at to promote a product. I still think you need the human touch, but AI, when it comes to operations, pitching, and the back end of a lot of companies, I think it's really useful. I think that you can do a lot of work with Claude to create a pitch deck creating skill. You can have a idea generator for your clients. You can have an invoice tracker, vendor tracker. You can also have a skill that edits videos and creates motion graphics and promotes your video on all these different platforms with API and MCP connections. So there's a lot of great opportunity there for the back end for businesses and for creatives, and also for idea generation. I think as a creative, using AI for idea generation to overcome writer's block is very helpful, because when I speak to multiple clients and they want to hear ideas, I already trained my model, my Claude, on how to come up with ideas that are that I like, and so I'm able to come up with a lot of fast ideas. I can improve in my voice, so I can pitch to potential clients and also use for myself. And that's where I've seen AI has been very helpful. It's really just the optimization of pipelines, the creating the ads themselves. It's fun. I think it's a really fun way to represent your brand. You can have some fun. You could put certain celebrities in your videos or in your photos. I think you could probably use it for Canva and for design. I think that at least Claude Design or Canva AI, you can create some great designs. Great for VO, 11 Labs, if you want like a voiceover or a just someone talking about your product and you don't see them, you could use that. I use HeyGen for cloning myself and having an AI avatar. I think it still turns a lot of people off with AI avatars, but I think you need to just know how and when to use it. I think for explainer videos for tech companies, it could work. But having a AI HeyGen avatar trying to promote your CPG company might not work as well. And then when it comes to Higgsfield using VO or Kling or Seedance or Sora, I think that if you are a talented editor or you work with a really good AI creator who also has a background in filmmaking and editing and visual effects, you can create some amazing content. But I think nowadays people still want genuine content from real people.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know how deep you were on the back end stuff. We do a ton of that, back end workflows, and maybe we'll need a follow-up episode where we can nerd out on
Oh,
those.
please. No, I am obsessed. I have a second brain with Obsidian and Hermes Agent, and I talk to my Claude every single hour like a crazy person. It reminds me of the movie Her, and I think I'm getting hooked too much and I need to stop.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're on the same page there.
Yep.
So I've got one last question before we wrap up. But before I ask that, I want to point people to where they can connect with you. So you just mentioned your YouTube channel, but then your website, thecreativehaven.com. Is there anywhere else that you recommend people go to connect with you or the work you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. If you can go to thecreativehaven.com, you can also go to my own website, which is mitcheldumlao.com, and then YouTube channel. I have a lot of content coming out, and right now that is going to help you scale your business or your creative workflow with AI. And I don't want to make it so that it replaces real people. It really just improves the workflow of your creative team. And that's going to be on youtube.com at Mitchel Dumlao. And then it'll be Mitchel Dumlao on Instagram and then LinkedIn as well. So for the folks who are LinkedIn people, you can connect with me there. But honestly, those are all the platforms. And I'm always open to helping folks. So just send me an email or a DM.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Mitchell. Yeah. So the last question is around mistakes. So I'm curious if you have any, mistakes you can share that brands often make when they're looking to either hire, creative people, creative ops internally, working with freelancers or working with agencies. What are some of those common mistakes that you see brands make?
Nice. No, I like that question. I think when brands hire a creative person and then try to put them into marketing at the same time. So someone who has a background of filmmaking or design or arts, they aren't marketers all the time. And that's very much a hybrid role nowadays, is social media marketing and marketing in general and content creation is blur the lines between artistry and creative and marketing. And the reason why I say that is that sometimes I work with brands who have an in-house team, and they do have an in-house creative team. They do have people who make the content. But when I talk to these people, they're just filmmakers. They're just videographers, and they don't understand sometimes about hooks. They don't understand about the amount of content they have to create, the variations. To be honest, sometimes they're bored. They don't want to create marketing content, ad content, branded content, or internal recruitment videos or explainer videos. I mean, these are artists. And so getting a team that has the marketing know-how and then also the creative expertise, it's very unique. I think there is a new generation that has that expertise because they've been on the phone, they've been creating content, consuming content, and now to them, like, content is marketing. Like, you are marketing yourself and you create content. That's very important. It's just really finding the right creative person that also is a marketing person. And if you just find a creative person, find a separate marketing person. And when you bring in these videographers and these photographers, understand that they are creatives and that they do need some sort of creative output to keep them on the job. So it's a more of a leadership thing and finding the right creative lead to lead that team. But just making sure that that not all creative people are marketers and not all marketers are creators.
It's awesome. Great nugget to end on. All right. We've been talking to Mitchel Dumlao, executive producer at Creative Haven. Be sure to check him out at thecreativehaven.com and Mitchel Dumlao on all the things. Mitchel, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, CJ.
Thanks for listening to the Missing Ingredient podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.